Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to our latest webcast that we're bringing you from Travel Weekly as part of our Roadmap to Recovery series. And I'm joined today by three gentlemen right on the front line in travel. We have Mark Duguid, who is the Managing Director of Carrier Luxury Holidays. Tony Mann, he's been on before many times from Idle Travel. And Andrew Botterill, who is the Executive Chairman and co-owner of Travcorp Holdings. And actually, Andrew's joining us from Portugal today. Very pertinent, of course, because I brought these three together because obviously last night we heard the government's announcement. We were hoping for an extension of destinations and countries on the green list. We didn't get what we wanted, far from it in many ways. But let's start with you, Mark. You, well, you know, we were hoping for a few Caribbean islands. I think there was speculation around that. You know, I know you go everywhere, but you must have been disappointed with what happened.
Incredibly disappointed. To be honest, I wasn't expecting, no, I don't think anyone was expecting a huge extension of the green list. Even a modest one. I'd anticipated no further green list countries. What I hadn't anticipated was that we would actually go backwards. Just such a monumental step backwards. I mean, the juxtaposition, just as our lives are starting to normalise again, as you can see, I'm actually up in Aberdeen. I went through Gatwick this morning, visiting friends and family for the first time in 18 months. We're just starting to, open up again. So it just feels like a real kick in the teeth to go backwards. And wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, and you say that sort of monumental reversal there. I'm sure you're talking about Portugal being taken off the list, as you say, a surprise, I think, to everyone. Andrew, I saw you tweet yesterday that you were in resort and you saw people obviously receiving the news. It was leaked for a start, so it started being sort of flashed on BBC and Sky channels, and you said there was an instant reaction from other sort of holiday makers.
Yeah, well, it was going back to the chaos of last summer, where effectively we all know what happened. People having their holidays cut short, having to get back to the UK, pay hundreds of pounds for different flights. But we've got the added complication this year because people this year, because the government asked us to, have spent an awful lot of money on tests that effectively, it would appear, are a waste of money. Because for me to come to Portugal, and I've had 2 vaccinations, which I didn't want, I paid for a PCR test for me and my family to get into Portugal. This afternoon, I'll be taking an antigen test to get on the aircraft on Sunday. And on day 2 of me getting back to the UK, I'm taking another PCR test, which is apparently the test that would be helpful if there were different variants around the world. So we've kind of subscribed to everything that the government wanted us to do to open up travel. And even though Portugal was on the green list, it was still quite onerous to come abroad and enjoy yourself. So in September last year, Grant Shapps went to the House of Commons and told MPs that wasn't going to happen again this year. And once again, this government and him in particular have done a U-turn without any regard to people and families. You know, there are people around the pool who have got children going back to do mock A levels, mock O levels, and all of a sudden they're not going to be able to do that. It is treacherous.
Okay. And just before we move on from that, because I will come to you in a second, Tony, but we were told there would be a green watch list. So, but this has been sudden, and they haven't said, oh, look, cases are rising in Portugal. We're now a bit worried about it. We're going to put it on a watch list. You've got a week. It's just been decided.
Yes, because this government is able to act with complete impunity. So they actually don't care about the people that it affects. It all feels very political. And as I say, for a politician, a Secretary of State to say to MPs last September, as Grant Shapps did, that we were not going to go back to the chaos of last year, and then to introduce the testing system that's been put in place at great cost to the consumer and travel companies to then do what he's done is beyond belief. And there's a lot of angry people here in Portugal, not just tourists, but the hotels that spent an awful lot of money training their staff and getting things up to speed. And it's just heartbreaking, really, just to see. And the sort of the atmosphere when you go into a restaurant, it's just completely gone. And I just think it's something that could have been done, just put to one side whether it's required or not due to different variants or rising cases. That's a slightly different subject, but the way in which this has been handled is twice as bad as what they did last year, and it just adds insult to absolutely. Listen, for me to come here and get back, I'll have had three tests. Now, this time last year, I could travel anywhere and not have to have the test. So all these things were put in place. This apparatus was put in place by the government to restart travel. And now they're just completely ignoring what they've put in place that we've paid for and gone and done something that is unforgivable. And they don't have to give an explanation. As I say, these people just seem to be able to do what they want, say what they want, and then just act with complete impunity. It's, as I said, it's just treacherous.
Okay, all right. Tony, let's bring you in. I mean, Andrew's used words there like chaos. Did it throw your business into chaos? I mean, had you got customers overseas? Have you got customers booked to travel?
Well, I decided that when they first said they were going to restart travel on the 17th of May, and I am an agent who in the last 12 months, 16 months or however long it's been, we have sold holidays and we've got people away. So I've not been scared to book holidays, and it's been difficult and I can understand why some people wouldn't, but we've done it. But for some reason, I just didn't trust them. So obviously we, as you know, Lucy, we do lots of Jet2 holidays. We're 15 minutes from Leeds Bradford Airport. And we do a lot with them. So I decided when Jet2 decided they were going to refly on the 24th of June at that point, I decided that's when we would do it. We didn't have any other bookings bar theirs. And we actually turned bookings away because people decided they want to get away, but I did not trust them. So I said to everybody, we're not doing anything till the 24th of June. I don't know why. I don't know what was going on then, in all honesty. I wasn't very clear over the testing. I just thought this is not right at this moment in time. So yesterday, obviously, we were waiting for the list. I did some media stuff in the morning. They were saying, "Oh, where do you predict?" I said, "Nowhere," because actually, I said, in all honesty, I don't think they're going to give us anything.
So like Mark, you actually didn't think that things would be added? No,
and I thought I was wrong, because obviously people were predicting,
people were saying Malta, weren't they? They were saying Malta, a couple of Caribbean islands. They were saying some of, maybe the Balearics. So there was speculation that some things could go on.
Absolutely. So I said to people, I said it on, the two media, the radio ones I did, and customers coming in. Look, we're probably not going to get anything. It's the next list we need to look at. But whatever we get, if we get something else, it's a bonus. What obviously I didn't realise, which, to be honest, and I'll use language where I'm not swearing because I'm trying not to, but gobsmacked is probably the only word. I was just flabbergasted, to be honest. I thought, I just can't believe.
And Tony, even though you hadn't got people then away, you hadn't sold holidays or you weren't going to till June the 24th. What does that what does that do to customer confidence for the rest of the summer? If people, as Andrew says, it's this back to this, is it on, is it off? Do you think it will damage people's, confidence to go away this summer per se, regardless of where it is?
Yeah, well, actually, this morning we've got Jet2 has cancelled the holidays up until the end of June, so the 1st of July. So we've been bringing customers to tell them we've got 18 bookings. I've just had a look. And bizarrely, I thought straight away the majority is just going to say, give us the money back. We've had enough. And I won't blame them. I've had enough, to be honest. I can totally understand that. But we probably at the moment, where we're down the list, is most have said they want to rebook. So lots have said, yeah, we've already swapped them over. We've already asked some people who wanted refunds. But I honestly, it shocked me. It's 70-30, 30% cancellation, 70% said they're still willing to go even on amber, which I'll be honest, that shocked me a little bit. But this last week, we're in a shopping mall, we're a high street agency, we're a really busy agency, but in all honesty, this last week's been dead. It's not been, it's kind of gone flat, and the mood had changed a little bit. And obviously then today, our phones, obviously we're ringing out, I can hear them non-stop in the background. And it's been a mixed reaction. We've had a lady, for instance, crying. I've just spoke to her because she was due to go out to see a mum in Gran Canaria who's not well, and actually she's just taken the turn for the worse, so she wants to go soon, sooner than we can get her out there, and it's not unfortunately what we're going to do. But yeah, it just, to be honest, I'm just gobsmacked. I'm angry. The way they did it, once again leaked it in the press. That is just unbelievable. You're so unprofessional, guys. I wouldn't let you wash my car, in all honesty. You are so unprofessional, leaking it out and then sitting in his cupboard or whatever he does, and says to, you're not going to Portugal. Just totally irritates me. We're trying to run businesses, and whether it's a small business like myself or airlines and tour operators, how are we meant to do with that? I actually don't know what to say to people, in all honesty, going forward in July. I still think we will. I think I'll be honest, the plan is they never wanted us to travel on the 17th of May. And that's what I honestly believe, but they don't even have the guts to say that. So it's like the amber, we've got an amber list, but we advise you not to travel. No, either we can go, we can't go. Just make a decision. So, I still think that we'll get some away in July, because I always think they never really wanted us to travel on the 17th of May. And the first chance they've got, and who knows what's going on there, who knows what they're telling us, because we just don't know. I mean, how do we plan? How do these guys plan with tour operators? And
let's ask Mark. Tony's saying it just must be impossible to plan, but he's still hopeful of, July and August will come good, or we'll get something. How do you plan if you're running a tour operator, Mark?
Great difficulty. It just first of all, to echo what Andrew said, what an abject failure of this scheme. For all the faults of the traffic light scheme, the one sort of positive that I took from it when it was first announced was that they acknowledged the chaos that was caused with these late announcements, and that's what the Green Watch List was explicitly put in place to do. And it wasn't even mentioned yesterday, so we're not clear on why it didn't move to the Green Watch List and just bypassed it altogether. It does feel like more of a political decision than anything else, so just to echo again what Andrew said. But in terms of planning, I think the summer is pretty much gone now, to be honest. If I look back and compare it to last summer, it was in early July that we first got the very first countries on the air corridor system. We did manage to get a few clients away in July. So as Tony said, there were some clients who did get away. But this is an air corridor system. This is, it's not as free as that. Green does not mean go. Several other people have said that. Andrew explained the number of tests that he had to take. So, best case scenario, in the next update, with some additional countries moving on to the green list, so we actually have something to sell. The restrictions are such that the number of clients we're actually going to physically get away, I think, are actually going to be very small in the end.
Yeah, okay, so you're not holding out much hope. And Andrew, before we just move on from the government, Steve Heapy on here this morning, I'm sure you probably haven't had a chance to see it, but he's really angry because he feels that, not apart from the way they did it, he doesn't really understand the criteria or because they're saying it's based on the science, and he's saying, look, he doesn't now get what the policy is. Are they doing it based on they've got to be 0 infections and 0 deaths? Because if that's what they're waiting for, he's saying that's just unachievable. But he's saying, and if it's not that, then what is it? Because he was then reeling off the rates in all these countries that are either lower than the UK or doing as well in terms of, say, vaccination rollout, etc. So he's saying that it's now, like Mark was saying, there was this really good sort of strategy that we were supposed to be following, but they don't seem to have been following their own, their own rules that they set out, and so he's now completely confused. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, look, very much so. I think what we've got here is, and okay, we can move on from the government shortly, but they're incompetent, and that incompetence is just affecting our industry more than most, because I think fundamentally they don't understand the industry. They don't understand the logistics of how a tour operation or an airline or a travel agency work. They don't understand, because they don't want to understand. And then they make these decisions, and again, they make the decisions. They know there's going to be collateral damage, but like with most things we've seen recently with this government, they're not held to account. So they're continuing to do what they want to do when they want to do it. They don't really care what.
Sorry to interrupt, but when you say they're not held to account, what should we do? I mean, there's already a call this morning. There's a petition going around for, a vote of no confidence in Grant Shapps. There's a call for some kind of peaceful protest outside Westminster on Thursday, which is gathering some, some attention. Steve Heapy this morning said he was going to form a super group with Airlines UK and the Airport Operators Association and other tour operators to exert more pressure and demand some clarity on whatever the criteria are that the government are now using to create this traffic light system. So are any of these things, should we get behind these? What should we do to hold the government to account, to make sure that they listen to us?
Yeah, look, I heard what Steve said, and I've got a lot of time for Steve. He talks a lot of sense, but Lucy, you've been around as long as me and the other guys on this call, and we know that trying to form an effective lobby group in the travel industry is really, really difficult. It's been tried before, and we don't seem to be getting much traction. But that's got to be the best way forwards if we can do something like that. And I think just sitting back and doing nothing is not what we want to do. But to do something cohesively, you've got to have a vehicle that's going to be taken seriously and heard and given a seat at the table, because frankly, that's what we've not been given. This task force that they set up was supposed to take all the lessons that they learned from last summer, of which there were many, and make sure that those same mistakes weren't made again, and then put a layer of testing over the new reopening plans. Now,
vaccinations, of course.
Correct. Well, I mean, that's just mind-blowing, really, because we're all told to get vaccinated, but in every sort of media channel you look, everybody's asking the same question: why did we bother? Because there's no plan. There's just no credible plan that you can look at and say, we understand the way out and we're all willing to play our part. Don't forget, the people that have come to Portugal have done exactly what they were asked to do at great expense. So you can just imagine the effect that that's going to have on the broader travel industry and people's appetite to go away, because they do what they're told to do, like they did with the vaccinations, like they do with the testing regime. And then halfway through their holiday, they get told that actually by next Tuesday morning, if they don't adhere to the new restrictions, they're criminals. That's where we've got to. It's not good.
Yeah. Okay. Tony, you're sort of nodding your head in agreement. Do you share Andrew's view?
Absolutely, and I think I heard Steve, and again, I've got a lot of time for Steve. I know he's quite straight to the point. Where he runs a Yorkshire company, and we like to be blunt, and Jet2 can be that, which is good. That's what that's why we get on. But listen, in the end, I agree with the thing. Maybe we'll go protest on the 10th of June, as long as it's not a march. Actually, we don't. If it's a march, I've already had a look. We have to inform the police, but if it's not a march, we're allowed to go. Maybe we should show a strength in numbers. Will it do any good? Not too sure, but it's not being tried, because they're not listening, in all honesty, because they've got nobody to answer to. they can, you know, they're getting away with whatever. And it's not the thing of, if it's unsafe for people to travel, we don't want them to travel, but we want them to be honest and actually have a plan. You know, just have a plan that we can all follow in some way. That was the idea of the government travel task force, whatever it's called. Yeah, what a waste of money that was, and time and effort on everybody, because that's completely forgotten now. So, you know, what else do they want us to do? As a person, personally, I've done everything they want. You know, I've stayed at home, I've become a hermit, I've become unsociable. I put extra debt, well, not extra debt, I had no debt on my company. So I put debt on my company. You know, I've downloaded an app so you can tell where I am. Brilliant. Yeah, that's superb. I've taken a vaccine because you said, I've got a clue what's in it, but I've been double jabbed. I have been double jabbed. I think I've been double jabbed and kicked between the legs, to be honest. It's, you know, what does it mean? It means nothing. And then they keep saying, oh, you know, Freedom Day, because Boris called it the passport to freedom, 21st of June. It might not happen. You're driving us all insane.
Do you think there's an element, though, they're so keen to try and get as close to the 21st and open it up or near as they can on the 21st, that they're just so frightened to allow any international travel because this domestic opening up is just so crucial politically? You know, they've got to make sure that we all sort of get our freedom, as you reference. Do you think that's...
I agree. I totally agree. But then they should have said that. We wouldn't have been opposed to it, would we, really? I tell you what, 21st of June, let's not have any travel since you know, till then, or even the 28th. Not this nonsense that they've come up with. And the traffic light system is ridiculous in the sense of the amber. Come on. You know, like I said, red or green, if you want to call it a colour, but it's either you can go or legally you can't go. Yeah. You know, and then the foreign office advice not being the same. So it's just, it's an absolute shambles, to be honest. But if the 21st is the Holy Grail, then tell us, you know, actually, we're quite reasonable people. You know, we've taken all this 18 month or 15 month or whatever it is. You know, I had black hair, you know, I had probably a mullet at that time, you know, but it just like drives me insane.
We're going to do some before and after shots of you. See how much you've aged.
It would be
good. Mark, you know, Andrew pointed out that last year we had these corridors, and I mean, there was talk that we might get a UKUS corridor early July, which would be important, I guess, for you. But you're saying you think the summer's pretty gone. So even if we get something, it's just not going to be the volumes that you need. Is that what you mean?
That's just it. There's a lead time to booking. So we will get clients. We have clients still travelling. There are some clients going to go on Amber, and we have clients travelling. If countries do go green, we will pick up some bookings. But it's not the volume. I mean, I didn't hear your interview with Steve this morning, but I heard your previous one. In an organisation of his size and other airlines, they need lead times to get the capacity in place. There's just not going to be the capacity or framework there. So we're a small company, we work dynamically, we can cope with ultra late business. So actually, what was quite insulting yesterday was when Grant Shapps, you know, he did sort of recognise the impact on the travel industry and said that it's okay because we've got the furlough scheme. Well, I've not been furloughing my staff to any real extent. Last month, my frontline team, I think it was 5% of ours was furloughed. They've been busy. We've been busy rebooking clients, facilitating new inquiries for this summer. In the attempt that we do get some people away. We're dynamic, you know.
Well, and I think Gove said yesterday that, you know, there's a chance furlough could be extended, but for the travel industry, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's been a lifeline in many ways, but it's just not workable for us, is it? In the way it is, and we've talked about that a lot.
Exactly, we talked about it before, but we want to trade our way out of this.
Yeah.
So, you know, in terms of what we do now, I've got a campaign ready to go. You know, I was ready. I'd accepted that there was a slow pace to this. I was ready to go at that pace. But we really are ready to go. You know, I've used my resource sensibly. I've not furloughed to the extent that perhaps other organisations have, so that we can trade our way out of the road this summer. You know, we will attempt to do that with whatever windows we get, whichever countries are added to the green list at whatever point. But, you know, in terms of how we plan,
this campaign, Mark, we're struggling to hear you a bit, actually. I should apologise to anyone watching. It is a little bit crackly, but I think we can just about hear you. But the campaign, when will you action that? That you'll need to see a significant number or some of your key destinations on the list, will you? And that's when you'll go, or when will you make that decision?
A change in consumer sentiment is what we need, because this isn't just about Portugal. Last night's announcement wasn't just about Portugal. That's consumer confidence now gone, I believe. So it will take a sustained period of stability and countries going in the right direction before we have the confidence to push that campaign out.
Okay, all right. And Andrew, what does it mean, like, for your business? But I know you've run lots of travel companies, and you understand travel agents, big tour operators, travel agents, etc. What does it mean for people? I mean, some people are on the real breadline. Some people were saying, well, we just need this to get through the summer and then we'll be okay because we've actually got quite good forward bookings. But, is yesterday's decision significant in terms of some people's survival?
Yeah, I think Mark's right. The way that our industry wants to get out of this is to be able to trade out of it, because we know, probably more than most industries, when we can, the pent-up demand for travel, we all know, is absolutely huge. And I can, even speaking to people around the pool in this hotel, there are some hardened travelers out there, and there are people that are just waiting to travel. But to trade our way out of this, it's a confidence game. And yesterday's decision hit the confidence of travel businesses up and down the country of all shapes and sizes, because we're now back. In fact, we're further back than we were this time last year, because at least travel corridors, as much as I didn't agree with them, you could probably work with them until they started the can we, can't we, and the big stampede to get back. So what we've done yesterday is we've gone back to where we were last year, which shows from our industry's perspective that the government have not taken it seriously. They've not put plans in place. They don't understand the complexities and the logistics involved, not just for the companies, but for the consumers. And I think trying to get that confidence back this summer is going to be the biggest challenge that I think most businesses are going to have. And look, I think for the summer, there's always going to be people that are going to travel. There will be people traveling on the amber list because they're as fed up as we are. So people will travel, but the kind of demand that we need to get back into our industry to trade profitably and to be able to reinvest back into our businesses, we need the government to take our industry seriously, to put some plans in place and to communicate effectively at every level and at every turn. And they've refused to do that now for the last 12 months. It's almost as if we don't exist. And for an industry that puts in the tax money that we do and the contribution that we make across the supply chain, for us not to be taken seriously and treated like we have done in the last 24 hours is, Grant Shapps really, he should resign. If you ran a business and you behaved and you communicated like that, you'd be asked to resign.
Yeah. At that point on the amber list, I've seen a few travel agents this morning just posting saying, just my advice, just travel on the amber list because it's such a shambles now.
The irony is
that?
The reason I'm in Portugal, as you probably know, we've actually got a house in Ibiza. So we booked Portugal because we couldn't go to Ibiza because it was on the amber list. But then Spain lifted the requirement for a PCR test. And actually, I could have done the test to release on day 5. And I could actually have gone to Ibiza, but I'd already booked the flights, booked the hotel. And that's the other thing that this shows is each country around the world are working in silos. There's no communication at government level. And again, for confidence and for everything to be able to done cohesively, surely at government level, there should be people talking and planning and communicating. And it just doesn't seem as though they are, which tells me, and it's probably the second time I've said this during this call, but this is fundamentally political. And it's due to the fallout from Brexit. And it's the collateral damage for our business and our industry. We're taking the brunt of most of it, unfortunately.
And sorry, Andrew, just to pin you down, what do you think we should do? Like, Tony's prepared to go and protest. What do you think we should do as an industry? I know you're saying it's been tried before in terms of, getting a group together, and we're not been that successful in our lobbying efforts. But what else can we do? Should everyone write to their MPs again? But they've done that.
Yeah, well, but what we're seeing is, it's very difficult to write to your MP because they don't listen. So that I think some form of protest, our voice has got to be heard, because as an industry, whether we like it or not, it's just not being heard. And they're not taking us seriously. So some form of protest or as Steve mentioned, some form of group where people can just put aside their competitive natures and obviously conflicts and just work for a common cause of at least having a seat around the table and explaining to a Secretary of State for Transport the chaos that he causes when he just makes a flippant remark or a bad decision. Yeah. If you do that in any normal business, you lose your job.
Yeah. And Tony, given what Andrew just said there, that we are in a worse position now than we were last summer, do you think that will strengthen our calls for any further financial support, which has been absolutely lacking? But they have effectively said, we're closing down international travel. I know there's the Sandwich Islands and whatever, but if you're saying it can't, if the government's saying, I'm sorry, your industry can't operate, surely it should then support us as it has done other industries.
Well, it should, but for some reason, we probably, not myself, but wined and dined and smoothed them over the years, different governments, etc. And we thought, or some people thought they had their ear, and obviously they've gone deaf for 14 months. They're just not listening. So to me, 10th of June is the debate in Parliament. Maybe we need to show in numbers and go down. Who knows if it'll help? But actually, what else have we got left? We'll get some publicity out of it anyway. If we can get loads of numbers there, it shows something. Because to be honest, they're just not listening, and they're not interested. I'm flabbergasted that they actually just cannot see it. And obviously, is it 7 billion they keep throwing at us that they've spent in support? Well, I tell you what, then I think I'm a shareholder of our country, so I want to see what this £7 billion is, because you must have a list of it somewhere what you've spent. So let's have a look on what you've spent on it, and if you have, congratulations. But actually, if you have spent that, firstly, and I don't think you have, but if you have, if you don't help us going further forward, you're going to waste all that money, because we're all going to end up disappearing. So, what do you want us to do? It's, yes, brilliant that you've done that, if you have, and I still want to see what you spent on, because, sound bites are brilliant, aren't they? Actually, for the start, do you know what a travel agent is? Really irritating. They didn't know what I used to be called a travel agent, still called a travel agent, mate. I don't know, look it up, and then called me as an estate agent. I'll give you a clue. I'm meant to sell holidays, not houses. It drives me mad. That the incompetence is just unbelievable, but unbelievable that they would ignore this amount of people. So 10th of June is a good shout. Why not? Let's show in numbers, and if we all could do it, let's have some, industry leaders as well to all support together. We've all got the same aim in the end. I'd even say to Michael O'Leary, how about, I'll walk at the side of you, because we're all in it together. And just to kind of say, come on, wake up, guys, just help us and help us move forward, have a plan, because it looks like you've got no plan, or the plan was to never help us and to pretend by saying certain things, we've got a government travel task force and we're going to do this, and to completely ignore it. It's like, well, tell us why you ignored it. Just little sound bites, this might be happening. Yeah. Prove it then. Prove it.
And Tony, in terms of your business, you said you'd had to take on debt. I know that you've taken loans and all that kind of stuff. We talked about that before. What will you do now? Will you, if the summer doesn't come good in the numbers that you need it to, will you be okay? Will you have to take on more debt?
Well, we might. You know, we've actually not spent that debt. You know, I'm not. I'll tell you now. It's, you know, we've got an extra £50,000. It's not been touched. We were in. Luckily for us, we were in a good place. I made sure. You know, we refurbed his shop 8 years ago.
Yeah.
We were in a good place. We had 8-9 years. You know, we've been going 37 years. You know, and actually, I'm probably everything that maybe Grant Shapps don't think there's such a thing. I'm on an high street. Oh, I'm still going. You know, it's quite a busy high street. You know, it's not all dead. I'm a travel agent, so not everybody books online, just to give you a clue. And we've grown every year for well, obviously not up to 2019. We've grown unbelievably in the last 8 or 9 years. So, you know, no, we will be okay. And thank goodness we were in that position, but not everybody is there. We may have to take some more on. You know, I looked at it in the sense of, and my family looked at it, that, you know, this idle travel is me, it's my family. You know, we've been going a long time. I'm not just going to let it go like that. And I'll tell you now, with them, I'm not let them going to cripple it either. So, you know, we will survive. We're all survivors in travel, thank goodness. You know, we are all fighters. It just is frustrating when we've had his arms tied behind his back and his legs tied up and probably shoved in a dark hole and hope that we'd go away. So, you know, we're probably nearly there as well. That's the strangest thing.
Come through a lot.
There, you know, just to get some movement. We're not expecting to do what we did in 2019, but we're nearly there. And why can't you work with us? It's not hard.
That's what Mark said. You feel like you've gone to Aberdeen, you've been on a plane again, you're seeing your family again. It sort of feels like we're close, but so far as well. So, yeah. All right, listen, gentlemen, I'm very conscious of your time, and I'm extremely grateful for your thoughts this morning. And I just hope that, well, maybe I'll see you next Thursday outside number 10.
I'm going to tie myself to railings.
I'd like to see that. Well, I'll definitely be there because I've got to see that.
No, nobody will let me go.
Well, you hear Steve? He said he was going to go and doorstep Boris Johnson, but then he said he would probably get tasered before he got there. So, I mean, we could have some interesting images of the travel industry, I think, next week.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, listen, thank you so much to Mark from Carrier, to Tony from Idle Travel, and to Andrew from Travcorp Holdings. Thank you so much, all of you.
Cheers, guys.